Hey, welcome back, guys. So I didn't make a video in a while. This is a 2016 Chevy Sonic. It's had this weird mystery antifreeze leak that, for some reason, doesn't seem to show itself very well. So this motor is the 1.6 liter Ecotech non-turboed. If it's turboed, the turbo will sit right here and hook to the exhaust. This one doesn't have a turbo. I'm going to show you how to replace the water pump on this. Just so you know, this particular model does not have a timing belt driven water pump. The water pump is right here, this pulley, and I kind of started taking things apart, and then I thought, oh, I should make a video and let you guys see how this comes apart. So just so you know, this is the air box here. This hose, you just press it and it pops off. Same with the other side of it, so press it and comes off. And then this is a flat blade screwdriver. You loosen that and you pull it out, and then it pops off because it has these push-in tabs or posts, and they stick into this and this. And so then what we're going to have to do is, I've already jacked this car up so that it's on a jack stand, but only on the passenger side. It's kind of hard to see because it's really sunny today. Sorry about that. But we're going to have to drain the coolant, and we're going to have to remove this motor mount, and we're going to have to take off the tension of the belt so that we can get to this area, and we'll have to raise the motor so that it's easier to get to the water pump and get the bolts off the front of the pulley. So that's kind of a quick rundown of what has to be done. The only way that I figured out how to find this leak, actually, the only way I could find the leak is I put a leak down tester on my coolant reservoir, and I filled it with pressure and waited for, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes. And you could see the leak coming right out of the water pump, but nothing else was leaking. And I've been watching it for about a week now, trying to figure out how to get this thing fixed. So anyway, we're going to start working on this. Stay tuned for the end result. If you give it a like and a thumbs up, that'd be awesome. Or I guess a like and a thumbs up is the same thing. Never mind. Silly me. Alright, to drain the fluid for the antifreeze and get the project going for this water pump on this Chevy Sonic, there's a bolt here, there's one here, there's a screw, Phillips head screw here, and then there's another one here. And if you take the bolt, the screw off, like I've already loosened this all up. This is a 13 millimeter or a 1/2 inch to take this off. And then, so you remove both of these. And you make sure you got your Phillips out. And that cover comes down. And then this is your drain for the radiator. And this is where you loosen that so that the fluid will come out of this. Sorry, it's really blurry. But anyway, that's what you do to get it to drain all the antifreeze out of the radiator. before you can start replacing the water pump. I'm going to open that up and it'll start draining, and then we'll move on. Alright, so now we're going to take off this motor mount. I got the fluid drain going, where actually it's been pretty much done. So I got the bucket here, it's been draining. Over here I've got a jack with a block of wood underneath the motor to kind of stabilize it so that I can pull off this motor mount. With the motor mount you've got 3 bolts there, a bolt here, a bolt here, and one here, and all of them are 15 millimeters. So I'm using a deep socket 15 because of these 2 studs. And so I'm going to take those off and I'll be right back. Just real quick to kind of point something out. I'm not using any power tools or like impacts on this job. I'm just using some hand tools I have in the garage. This is obviously not long enough, and if you don't use a breaker bar or socket ratchet assembly that has a longer handle, I just use this piece of pipe and it fits over most of the handles. I mean, even some of my breaker bars that aren't long enough, I just add this piece of pipe to it and make it so that it's, you know, that much longer. Makes it easier to break bolts and nuts loose. Alright, so here is the motor mount removed. This bracket I don't think I'll have to take off. So before I loosen the belt, I'm going to break these 3 bolts loose so that hopefully the belt will hold the pulley in place while I do that. Sometimes that doesn't work. Hopefully it will this time. We'll see what happens. So in order for me to do that, I gotta jack this motor up enough to get some tools in there to actually do that. Okay, so before I loosened this, I used a T45 Torx to loosen these 3 bolts. And then I put a 13 millimeter here and I pried it towards the cab to get the boot belt loose. Now that the belt's loose, I can move it out of the way, and then I can remove the rest of these, take this off, and start taking the pump off. Okay, so this is an E10 socket. It's hard to see. E10. Basically, it's an inverted Torx. And I've used that to loosen all of these, and you've got 5 of them, 3 on the top. I don't know if you can see it, but there's one down here, and then there's one over here on this side. So I loosened them all up. I'm going to take them all out, pull the pull the pump out, sorry, and then get it all prepped to do the new one. Just so you know, some pumps that I've done, all the bolts are a different size. On this particular one, they are not different lengths. This one is, surprisingly, every single bolt is exactly the same length, same thread, everything. Usually when they're different though, when I start to pull them out and I find out that 2 of them aren't alike, or there's some that aren't the same, I try to make a diagram or a chart and place each one in its specific area so that I don't end up putting the wrong one in the wrong spot. Thought I was catching more of that than I did. Whoops. A lot of that went on the ground and not in my bucket. That was my bad. Alright. So that's the old pump. And if you come over here to my workbench, the new one, luckily, looks exactly like that one. So this pump I bought at O'Reilly's. You probably get it at AutoZone. The Murray brand. And this is the part number here. If you want to look it up, you might even be able to find it on Amazon cheaper. So anyway, we're going to prep the area and get this gasket in place and get ready to actually install this water pump. I just wanted to point out, pretty commonly everybody does a surface clean about the same way. What you want to do is get all this gunk off that you see around the edge of this water pump hole. You could use a scraper. I've seen some people use like a razor knife, just the blade of it. Clean it off with some like brake cleaner, and then when you get it so where most all the big stuff is off, then what you end up doing, what you can do, is kind of go over the surface with some emery cloth, piece of sandpaper or something, and make sure that there isn't any bumps or rough edges, so that when you go to put the new gasket on, it's got a nice clean surface and it seals really well. Anyway, I just wanted to point that out to you. So that's what I'm about to do, and I'll be back to you. Alright, I got the pump back in. I got all these bolts back on, and I got them finger tight. What I normally do after that is I will tighten like a cross pattern. Like I'll start with one and I'll snug it down a little bit more, and then I'll move to one that's in a different spot and I'll snug it down over here, and I'll crisscross it until they're all tight, and then I'll go around it to make sure none of them got loose. So I'm going to do that. Okay, so I got the bolts for the pump on and they're tight. When I started putting the pulley on, something I wanted to tell you was, when you go to put the pulley on, don't make any of these tight until you get all of them on. So this is still wiggly and loose, but what I'm saying is, if you go and put one of these on and you like tighten it up before you get the other two on, it makes it really hard to get the other two on. So just start with one, get it on there, get all the other ones on to where the threads are going in and you're not stripping anything, and then tighten them down. Okay, so I got the pulley on and I got the belt back on, if you look. What I do after I put the belt back on is I always kind of trace it, make sure it's on all the pulleys. And then I'll make sure these are tight, because before I put the belt on they were just kind of snug, they weren't tight. So I'll make sure they're tight, and then I'm going to walk away from this for like, I don't know, 15-20 minutes. And then I'll come back to it. And the reason I walk away from it is so that I can kind of let that RTV that I used set a little bit for the gasket, because that will help seal it. You don't have to do that. I don't know lots of people that do that, but I'm going to do that, and I've done that with almost all of my repairs that involve any kind of RTV and gaskets. So I will do that because I can get some other things done, and I will come back to it when I get to that point. Oh, by the way, thanks for watching, everybody. I appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Okay, everybody. Motor mount's back on. All 6 bolts are tight. I took the jack out and I closed the radiator drain, pulled the bucket out. Now all you got to do is put that gasket, or not gasket, sorry. Now all you got to do is put that cover back on up here, like I showed you. And then after you do that, lower it down fill it with antifreeze, and we'll look for leaks and see what's going on. That's it, really, you guys. I appreciate you guys watching. Hey everybody, I just wanted to let you know, because I forgot. After everything's back together and you got your coolant in, over here on the other side of your radiator, right, it's kind of hard to see. I don't know if I can get it or not. See that little, right there where my finger is? That is your bleeder for your radiator. And as you can see, I've already bled it because it's got fluid. Looks like it got fluid to where it's like dripped or whatever. So I ran the car for a minute after I filled it up, and then I shut it off and I opened this valve until fluid came out, and a whole bunch of air came out, and then fluid came out. And another thing you can do after you do that and you tighten it down is you can just open the radiator cap and air will come out of the radiator cap, and then you can start it back up, run it again, and then check it one more time. And I do it a couple different times just to make sure that all the air is bled out of the system. Another thing you want to make sure is that the car is flat, that it's not up on jack stands or anything like that. And then after you're done bleeding the system, you're literally done. You should be all done fixing this repair as long as you don't have any leaks. And you can give this video a like and have a great day. Thank you. Subscribe if you feel like watching any more videos in the future. Thanks again.